What's up, Hammer?
Hi, friends.
What's
How
going
are
on,
you,
big
man?
dog?
Good. I did see a picture of De'Aaron and Bogey. They look good.
Well, where the
De'Aaron,
hell is this picture? How come I didn't see it?
Somewhere on the timeline.
you know how I always see these things is the great Brett Huff. Brett Huff always tweets them out. Um, I don't have time to stalk people's social media. But yeah, it looked like they were together. They both look good. They fit, ready to play basketball.
I just want to see the suit. That's all. That's all. There's Brett. I'll search Brett's timeline.
Yeah, man.
Of course, you go to Brett and we'll go to Jill. Those are probably the two
Absolutely.
answers. All I want to see is the suit. I just want to grade the suit. That's it.
The Fendi suit. I think he had a Fendi tie on, and it might have been I don't know if it was a black shirt or a Fendi shirt as well.
How many Fendi suits are in your closet?
None. How many are in yours?
None.
Stop it. Don't lie to the people.
0.
Zero
Fendi.
a closet full of them. James built a closet for his Fendi suits. That's probably how it works.
Suits.
I did build a closet that's pretty spectacular. Like,
can someone tag me in the picture of Bogey and De'Aaron, please? I can't find it.
Yeah, somebody tag me too, because I can't
tag me in it.
I don't even remember where I saw that.
Hey, I saw a new article posted for the King's Beat here during the show, but didn't get an opportunity to read it. Hammer. But by the way, I'd mentioned I was going to segue to Miami before James joined us. What Messi's doing is incredible.
Ooh.
That we were out at a happy hour last night for our man Aaron, and we're watching these Messi goals unfold in Miami. This is fantastic.
Nah, man,
they got me. You joked. I'm gonna get you a. You said it to our man Marcos. Get you a little Miami Messi jersey. Well, hey, y'all might have got me. It's pretty dope.
He's doing what I expected him to do if he was coming over here. Come over here and dominate. That's what he's doing. That's why he's the GOAT.
He's incredible. Yeah,
you're a big soccer guy. Are you into what's happening? This is pretty dope to me as like a complete outsider to the soccer world. This is pretty dope.
Well, I'll be honest. The first game I didn't watch because it came on at stupid. Just it's so frustrating what the MLS does. I don't like them as an organization. I don't think they have their ducks in a row. They literally put that game up against the women's USA team playing their first game in the World Cup, and I'm like, what? That's just disrespectful. So I chose to watch the other game. So yeah, I mean, I do watch a lot of soccer, and it's impressive, but it's kind of expected. Like every player that's come over from the EPL and come over to play in the MLS just dominates. I mean, the brand of soccer is just so much better there, and it doesn't matter if Messi's older and on his last couple of years and playing. He's still one of the greatest players we've ever seen. And I expect him to really, really help push the MLS and especially leading up to the World Cup, which will be in United States in 2026. I think it's 26. Yeah, I mean, this is good. This is good because you're helping build the brand even bigger. But you're not going to start seeing Saudi money going at these players to bring more players over. I think that's going to kind of steal away a lot of these other options. It's just that, Messi had a bond with David Beckham and decided to come over here and got some ridiculous contract that, I think Apple was involved with and marketing deals and everything else. The way to get him here was pretty crazy, where, Ronaldo went to the Saudi Arabian team and took a humongous payday for 2 years, and isn't going to look back.
I saw. I don't want to get chatty housed, but this was in the chatty house. Is it true Mbappe turned it down? Turned down the Saudi situation?
Yeah, I think he did. Wow. Yeah, but you also have to remember that he's 20, 23, 24. He's not on his last legs trying to get one last payday. And the other difference is a lot of these players, their clubs, got to a point where their contract status, it's so weird. The contracts and how they do transfers and all that stuff, it's very strange. But a lot of these players, their weekly paychecks are huge and they're aging out, but they're still under contract and you can't get rid of them. And so the Saudi teams are not only absorbing that money and taking on the contract, but on top of that, they're giving transfer fees of, 50 million or 30 million, depending on the player, 80 million, 100 million, to help buy the player out of the club. It's very interesting.
All right. Well, the soccer beat with James Ham is wrapping up now.
And real quick before we go to basketball, and don't look back. It's being reported that Colorado, Coach Prime, all that, they're about to go to the Big 12. So Pac-12 is on its way
RIP
to being dead.
Pac-12 is Stanford.
Yeah, Stanford, Cal.
Stanford and
I'm
Cal.
sure Oregon will leave soon.
Oregon State.
It's a sad day on the West Coast when that's gone. I mean, Colorado's never been there anyway, but they were there, so cool. But I mean, what they gonna bring in San Diego State and Fresno State, and that's supposed to make everything all right? They talking about Fresno State going to the Big 12 themselves.
The Pac-12's dead. It's dead.
Yeah,
it's dead. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's the Undertaker's throwing the dirt on the casket, man. It's over, and that hand ain't popping out at the end of the pay-per-view like this. They're just gonna throw more. Oh, we forgot a part. Just throw it on top. James, we were talking about championship windows earlier. For example, the Celtics. Celtics, their championship window, it's open. It's not opening. It's not closing. It's just open. They've got opportunities to win championships. I'd argue that the Denver Nuggets championship window is open. Not opening, not closing. That thing is open. They've got chances to win titles. Any other teams stand out to you about like maybe I don't know how many to you. Are there any other teams that their championship window is open, like not in danger of closing? It's they're not like one piece short. Like that thing is open and they can win it this year.
Yeah, I mean, I still think Philadelphia, Milwaukee, like they have an opportunity, and like their players aren't, what Embiid is 29. I don't think that window's closing.
Yeah, Kenny's got Philadelphia gasping for air, like he's got them suffocating.
It's close shut on those dudes.
You might be right, but I still think that there's a crack there. It's just whether or not they can figure out how to
Embiid like a dog. He's just trying. He got his nose just trying to get some fresh air. Like this. Come on, man, keep it open.
If Maxey can go crazy this year, so like if Maxey turns into an all-star this year, maybe that's the way. But I mean, I don't think he's going to be I think he's a great ball player. I don't think he's going to be an all-star.
Yeah. Well, what about Miami? Because they just seem to reinvent themselves all the time. I mean, and what about? I mean, I hate saying this, but what about Memphis? Like, what about their championship window? Because
hold on, Memphis. I don't know that it's opening or close. I don't know what to make of Memphis.
Yeah, it kind of feels like they just have to figure out all of their personal issues before we can reassess who they are. I certainly think a team like the Clippers, it's closed. I think, like, heaven forbid, I'll say it here, the Warriors championship window has closed. Like, does that mean that they can't make a run? No, but like you wouldn't expect them to be a contender. The fact that the Kings, like I think the Kings are like 9th in the Western Conference as far as like championship contention. And I'm confused by that. Like, I think that the Kings have as much of a championship window as some of these other teams that we're bringing up. Which I'm not saying they have a true championship window right now, but you never know. Like, that's what I wrote about today. It's just that, what they're trying to do right now is build organically. I think a lot of people are, we're already looking at like their win total projection is 43.5. And I don't get that. Like, we're looking at a team that won 48 games. Why would you expect them to be worse when they didn't lose anybody?
Because they didn't get Kyle Kuzma, James.
Yeah, I guess. And I'm not sure where, some of these players that you think that they could have got would have put them over the top in some different way. Did I like the idea of Kyle Kuzma? Sure. But the idea of him on paper and the idea in the actuality of him are two totally different things. So, like, I think that the Kings, like, they're their plan is continuity and organic growth. And I think we all know that the biggest thing that the Kings have going for them is the ability of Keegan Murray to become something much bigger than he is right now. But there's all of these other things. Like Sasha Vezenkov, I believe, is a better player than Chimezie Metu. And I also believe that by having Sasha on your roster, it allows you to move Trey Lyles to the backup 5, and he's now set in that position. And I think Chris Duarte is a better player. Like I looked at the defensive metrics and I was stunned. Like he held opponents like in his rookie season to like 8.4% below their season average from 3. And from 15 feet out, it's over 7% below season average. So this is a good defensive player that actually knows how to play with Domantas Sabonis. I don't know that he's going to play that much, but what minutes you do get from him, I think will be more quality minutes than what you were getting from Terrence Davis. We won't have the huge swings, the 30-point game followed by the 0 for 5 or 0 for 6, and the mistakes on the defensive end. So, like, if we add some of these pieces together, and then the fact that the core of their roster is 24 through 27, like, why would you think that a core that hasn't reached their prime yet can't get better together? Yeah. And, they're going to have better defensive continuity. They're going to have the offense has potential to get better. And that's shocking. But like you replace inconsistent players with consistent players and you add more shooting like they've done, I think the offense can get better. So there's always a possibility for regression, but I'm okay with what they've done. I think that they've done a good job, and I think that they put themselves in an upward trajectory that puts them on the path to maybe one move away now from potential championship contention. I don't know that they're there yet, but
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. We talked about it the other day, where the Vegas win total, or one of the sports books, it's not all of them, but one of them is the Kings at 43.5 as a win total, the lowest I think in the Pacific Division. And I just talked about how it's almost a good thing that these things are still out here like this, because that'll have that chip on the shoulder of De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis, that they're still being disrespected, and people are still overlooking them. And Damian brought up a good point. He's probably 100% right. The reality is Fox and Sabonis, they don't even care. Like, they don't care if they were saying good things or saying bad things. Like, it doesn't change the way they approach things one way or another. You seem to definitely agree with that as well, right?
I totally agree. Those guys do not care at all about the outside noise. They look at it and they're just like, man, we proved them wrong last year. So, like, I feel like it, and I told you guys this a couple of days ago. I feel like we have a lot of doubling down. A lot of people are doubling down on their bad takes. And, they made their bad take. They were proven wrong. Now they just want to keep going with like a bigger and badder bad take. And, maybe people will learn, but at the same time, it's a prove it league. It is. I mean, you have to show that you can do it for more than 1 year. You've got to prove that this is who you are and who you're going to be. You can't just like expect that everyone is going to write De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis into the All-Star game again this year. That's just not the way it works. You got to prove it. You got to prove it each and every year.
Stick with these bad takes long enough. Eventually they'll be right. Just hang on a little bit longer.
After the Kings win their third championship. Yeah, I told you. I told you, and they finally lose. Yeah, it wasn't sustainable.
Told you that Domas was going to fall off. I mean, what is he, 37 now? Jeez. I don't think the Warriors window's closed. I guess I'm alone on that island. I think a lot has to go right for them, and they're a lot like you think Philadelphia is, where it's just cracked, but Steph could, break the window with a bat. Just be like, nah, the Warriors window's closed. The Steph Curry window's still open.
Yeah.
But that's one guy who could do that.
I agree with you. Yeah. I mean, like,
not sold on the team, but sold on Steph.
How far can he carry you though? And I think that's the problem. Like, at what point do you run into it? Like, like even like the Kings had moments where they really did lock Steph down. I mean, there are also moments where he got loose and you let him go. I think even Game 7, the Kings' motivation was to slow everyone else and kind of let Steph get his, and it didn't work out for him. And even that, like I went back and looked, like there's some really good defensive numbers from the Kings in the playoffs. Like there were plenty of games where, and actually like overall defensive stats for most of the players are exceptional. De'Aaron Fox was really good defensively in the playoffs. So I think that's where the Kings they're confident. Like whether the outside is confident, they don't care about that. But what they know is that not only did they prove that they could win 48 games and that they could be third in the West and they could win the Pacific title, but they also proved that they could go toe to toe with the champs, which the Warriors were the champs, and take them to 7 games. And if you look at the individual improvements during the playoffs, I think that they'll take a lot of that, and that will be something that we see in the regular season. You're not going to see 82 games of lockdown defense from De'Aaron Fox, but what you will see is more games where he has the ability to turn it on for spurts and impact a game. Take a player out of a game late and impact winning. And so I think that they will have learned a lot, and their confidence level will be different, and they understand what the goal is and what you're playing for now, where I don't think a lot of these players did before.
Yeah, funny thing about the Warriors is the Kings are a fraction better and win that series. I don't think there's any conversation about the Warriors. I think the perception of that basketball team is significantly different than if they lose to Sacramento in round 1 versus Los Angeles in round 2.
Well, that's some of the things we heard in the time during the series. It's like, hey, is this guy going to be back? Is that guy going to be back? Well, let's see what happens with this series. If they lose, I'd say no.
Before Game 3, they had written their eulogy. Like that 95-7 was, they were thinking about the future. They weren't thinking about coming back and beating the Kings.
No. So
it's funny though. I'll add this: flip that around. If the Kings would have beat the Warriors in round 1, and then they would have gone on to beat the Lakers in round 2, I still think the same exact people out there would be saying the same exact thing. Oh, it was an old Warriors team and a washed up Lakers team. That was an 8-seeded Lakers team. Like it's all about perspective and what happens in the moment and all that stuff. And I think that the Kings are going to have to earn the respect of the league. And to be honest, they did exactly what you should do in year 1. You should fight your hardest, win as many games as possible, make the playoffs. Losing in the playoffs is actually a good thing. It teaches you. It does. Like, you do not want your team to have everything handed to them in year 1, and then the expectations change, but the growth isn't there yet. And so I think they learned a lot from last year, and I think that they'll be able to take that into this season, and we'll see a different team. We'll see a different team from game 1, like a more focused, a more ready team. And, we talk about depth, but quality of depth. The quality of depth on this team is really good.
Would you also, when you talk about a different team from day 1, I agree with the couple of things that you said, but would you even say more confident team? Like, we've been here. We don't think we can get to the playoffs and be a successful team. We know we can. Obviously they didn't win a series, but we know we can get to the play. We know we're a playoff team. Now we just got to go out there. We got, and I know this is going to be, twofold, a good team or whatever, but New Orleans is coming in here. Yeah, we'll handle them like we're supposed to, or Orlando's coming in here tonight. Yeah, we'll handle them like we're supposed to. And that's the confidence that they're going to have going into these games after going into a playoff series and going 7 with the defending champions and, being a player too short from winning that series. The confidence level of this team is something that I think we'll see from day 1 as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's what this has always been about. It's about building something. It's not about a one-time thing. And again, like, look at what continuity does actually matter. Look at the team that won the championship. Most of those players have been together for a long time, right? Even if it's like 3 seasons. Like, most of the Kings players, they've been together for maybe 18 months, like at the most. And even that, like, Sabonis had situations going on, birth of a child, some other things going on at the end of the season. De'Aaron Fox hurt himself at the end of the previous season. Trey Lyles had just got there. Like, then you go into the offseason and Keegan Murray, Malik Monk, Kevin Huerter are all new additions. So realistically, the group of players, and it's pretty solid. The only one who's been here, the only two who have been here at any length of time are Fox and Harrison Barnes. That's it. And so they're all a young group. They all have the same exact things going on in their lives, and they're moving the same direction. I think that this is the beginning of something, and whether that it's something that's great or something that's really good, I don't know the answer to that. And I do still believe they're one piece away from being a true contender, but that doesn't mean that they can't be one of the better teams in the league. I mean, I honestly believe that they can be a top 4 team again without any question.
Not the player, but what's the piece? Like, is there a skill set you feel like that they're missing or lacking in?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think it's always going to come down to, number one, a better defensive player, but a player that fits the age range of the team that can bring that defensive attitude and not cost you so much on offense. Like, that's always going to be the issue. Can someone who is a legitimate two-way player that can help you shore up your defense? And I think, like, realistically, I don't think the Kings are like a whole bunch of defensive players away from being better. And I think that spending another year with Jordi Fernandez and with Mike Brown, they're going to be a better defensive unit. Even like we've talked about this, Doug Christie working with individual players on individual things to make them better defenders. So I do think that there's a wave that this team like just organically gets better, grows together, like continuity, having people who where they're going to be and they know where you're going to be, and the voices that you're hearing become more and more familiar, and the coaching you're getting. And again, this isn't to bash, like, people in the chatty house say, oh, you don't like Terrence Davis. No, I like Terrence Davis as a player. I totally do. But he's all over the board. He's inconsistent. And I've always said, like, you can have one or two of those guys on your team. But with this team, it's really that player's Malik Monk, the guy who plays like his hair's on fire and does whatever. I just think by adding solid pieces that know their role and play to their strengths, like Vezenkov and Duarte, that actually will impact the wins and losses of this team, especially if you have any injury issues at all this year.
And so I'm asking the question not to challenge you, because I agree with you. I'm just really curious. So how do you get that player, and maybe is it a situation where that player just needs to be developed when you're talking about a Keegan or I don't know, or Kobe Jones or something like that? Like, how do you get that player that you're looking for to take you over the top, which was one of the things that we talked about with free agency, right? Because it felt like that player, this was your time to get that player, because everybody else is kind of locked up. Obviously trades can happen or whatever, but how do you bring that player into the program, into the franchise?
Well, I mean, I think that's always been the biggest issue with the Sacramento Kings. They're one of a handful of teams in the league that just don't get to participate truly in free agency. So for whatever reason, it still holds true to this day. They are not true participants in free agency. Like, bringing over Sasha Vezenkov from Europe, that's not a free agent acquisition. That was a draft pick. You owned his draft rights. He could not negotiate with anyone else. Bringing back Trey Lyles or bringing back Harrison Barnes, that's not truly participating in free agency. I'll make the claim again. Vlade Divac is the best player the Kings have ever signed in free agency in their 38 years in Sacramento. The second best is probably George Hill. That's it. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. So how do you get that player? I can answer that question though. The way that I believe that you get better, or that you go get that player, finding that player in the draft is really tough if you're a winning team. Now they're a winning team, and so draft picks become more and more valuable. I would say this: if the Kings are a really good team at the trade deadline this year, and the Toronto Raptors aren't, you're going to see them go full-fledged at a guy like OG Anunoby. And the key is that if you get to a point at the midway point of this season where it's almost assured that you're giving up your 2024 draft pick from the Kevin Huerter trade. That means that you can now start putting things into a trade clause, like we'll give you our 2026 first round pick if it's available. And if not, the 2027, if it's available. But teams will have a better understanding that that pick will be available, the 2026. If you can see what I mean, that the 2026 pick will all of a sudden become more and more valuable if you're already set to make the playoffs this year and give up your 2024. So, those are ways in which the Kings can start building more and more value. And fact is, we just turned another calendar year. So the Kings coming into, as of right now, they technically can't trade even their 2027 first round pick, I believe. I think it's the first one they can trade is 2028. But now you have two, because we turn a calendar year, you can trade 2028 and 2030 first round picks. And you can also put stipulations in, or you can do pick swaps and stuff like that. There are ways that you can actually build value with what you have, because I still don't think that there's going to come a point where you're a true free agent, place that people go and land. And then the other problem you have is that moving forward, they locked all of their contract, all of their money up this summer going forward, for the next 5 years. Well, maybe not 5 years, but when you gave Sabonis that kind of money, you gave Harrison Barnes that kind of money, you brought Trey Lyles back, your next 2 year salary cap is basically full. You're never going to have another opportunity like you did this summer where you had $35 million in salary cap space. It's just not going to happen. Even if the cap goes up, you're not going to have that money. You'll have mid-levels, you'll have biannual exceptions and all of these other mechanisms, but you won't have true cap space again to go out and get those players
that you weren't going to get in the first place.
That you weren't getting in the first place.
Yeah. So the deal is trade your draft picks, unfortunately, and that's always been something that general managers in Sacramento are always leery on, because you're almost always a lottery pick. And I still think there's enough cachet saying, "Hey, I have a Sacramento Kings draft pick," because people aren't really paying attention to how good the team is and where that pick could be, and they also don't believe as of right now.
OG Anunoby's never getting traded. I'm just somehow OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam are going to be Raptors forever. I don't know how, I don't know why, but they're never leaving.
No, they're
they're
gonna be on the Raptors when they're retired.
Yeah. They're not gonna. Yeah, Masai Ujiri's not gonna even let them leave Toronto. No, man, I want to go live. No, you stay here in Toronto forever.
And Masai's gonna have a job still.
Probably. Masai's a gangster. I don't know what he did. Man, dude, a gangster.
He's got a chip though. He got one.
He's a made man.
All that matters.
You can't be a gangster if you don't have a chip.
No.
Yeah, and he got his.
He's a made man.
He got the green jacket. Now he gets to go play on the golf tournament, no matter how long you just get to keep playing.
Can I steal your question?
Sure.
Can this team still achieve its goals next year, or at least the goals that we believe they've set, if it's Malik that's their third best player and not Keegan Murray? Would you say Malik is their third best player right now?
Oh, I don't know. I understand the love of Malik, but was Bobby Jackson ever the third best player on the 2000 20 through 2000
different team though? Yeah, they had better players.
Because you're obviously thinking Keegan, right? Which is the first thing I thought. But can you definitively say it's Keegan? Can you definitively say it's Harrison? Like Ramsey brought up, Harrison needs to be in this conversation right now as the third best player.
Well, that's what I told you guys last year. You guys said who's going to be the third best player.
So, James.
And I said, everyone's you got Huerter, you got Monk, you have all these players. And I said, I still think it's Harrison Barnes. I don't think it will be Harrison Barnes this season at all. And I don't. I think Harrison will just by he will accept a slightly lesser role this year. It just in my opinion. Maybe I'm off base there, but I think everybody wants to see Keegan take that step, and they want to give him the opportunity to take that step. And whether it's your third best player or your third best scorer, I think this is a year that probably Keegan Murray's your third best scorer. But I also see a place where you could have a 3-way tie or a battle between Monk, Keegan, and Kevin Herter for who's going to be the third highest scorer. Because I believe Kevin Herter was the third highest scorer this season.
Yeah, our third highest scorer and third best player mutually exclusive?
No.
I mean, are they the same? I guess it's
no. Not in my opinion. I don't think that's ever been the case. Like your third best player, like who means the most to this team? Like those are all those questions that we always ask. Like, again, Monk brings some intangibles that other players don't have, but those other players also bring things that Monk doesn't do as well.
Well, he brings a lot of tangibles too. Like, let's not diminish what he does on the court. Like we're doing this countdown of, the top 25 games of the season. And, we talked about this in depth, James. You're 100% right. Like he's got the, he's got strong roller coaster vibes. But man, when that roller coaster's at the top, man, that dude he's it. Like he's a difference maker.
One of the things that spawns this question as well is like every time they win these games, Malik is playing well. I think there's a correlation between when he's struggling. How do I put this? The games that he struggled in, they probably lost the majority of them. The games that he played well, I'm saying like 17 plus points, they probably won the majority of them. I think that's his importance to this team. If he's playing well, if he's playing like the third best player on the team, it adds a whole nother dynamic. And that's regardless of what Keegan does, Herter, Harrison. If Malik is playing well with Sabonis and Fox, I think that's when the team is at their most dangerous. At least this past year. Maybe it's different this year, but I think this past year they were.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. It's like chicken or the egg thing because, I'm looking at like in their wins. Is this Monk? This doesn't look like Monk stats. Maybe this is the year before. Yeah, their splits. I went back too far. I'm gonna guess that they don't. What your idea? Like I understand.
Yeah, it just feels like I haven't seen no numbers to back it up. It feels that way. That's all it is. So actually, it could be something completely different. But
here's what it is. In their wins, he shot 48.2% from the field. In their losses, he shot 40, so 8% less. In their wins, he shot 41.4% from three, and then their losses, he shot 27.3%.
Damn.
So again, the question is, did they win because he was good and lose because he was bad? Because that's also a possibility that there are games where he actually impacted your ability to win. And I think that goes for all kinds of players. And like, I've been honest here too. Like it wasn't just Malik that had a roller coaster season. Like Kevin Herter's like stats are wild. Like his first month and a half of the season, his month of March are some of the best shooting you're ever going to see. And then the other months are like, oh boy, like what's going on here? And you can also look at both their offensive ratings and their defensive ratings in those stretches. They really hurt the team when they're not hitting their shots. They also get frustrated and their defensive ratings drop dramatically, both of them. And so there is this thing where that's why I keep saying they need to even. They need someone to take an iron and knock the wrinkles out of that, the chart, the like sort of their cardiogram. It's all over the board.
We'll come back. We'll talk more Kings basketball with James. We'll show James our favorite clip, one of our favorite clips of the season that we were watching earlier. We'll talk more hoop here as D'Lo and KC, brought to you by Sky River Casino, continues here on Sacramento Sports Leader, ESPN 1320. Okay. I'll be right back. I need a second.
I don't know what just happened. How was your birthday?
It was good, man. It was good. I had to do a wedding photo shoot at 5 p.m. in the afternoon when it was like 1:06.
Oh.
So it sounds terrible, and I'm not saying it was cool, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. Like we were
You
able
weren't
to.
out there sweating like Kenny Thomas.
Oh, I definitely was. I absolutely was. But we were able to stay in the shade the majority of the time. There was only like one shot where we had to be in the sun, but for the majority of the time we were in the shade, and that helped out. And then the pictures came out. We didn't get them all, but we got a few of them. They came out really nice, so it was good. And then I went to dinner. You know, I had a little steak. You know what I mean? So it was
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Sweet.
Good stuff.
It is hot right now. It's heating up. Although it's not as hot. It's only 93.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to think. I think we're out of the hundreds for a little while. Yeah.
That would be good. That would be a good thing.
Next 10 days, at least mid to well, then just in the 90s. Some high, some low, but we're all over the place.
Yeah, I think, you know, like discussion, when we have discussions on these stats and stuff, the ups and downs of players, it is just really wild. Like, but I would like to tell you that like it fully one player impacts wins and losses, and maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, you know.
Well,
like,
I mean, even with that being said, I don't think Malik affects him more than Fox or Sabonis, right? Like if Malik has a good game, but Fox and Sabonis or Fox or Sabonis are struggling, I don't think the Kings are gonna win. So you know what I mean? Like he doesn't affect him more than those two.
Yeah, I would say though that like the way that this Kings team is built is you got two dudes who basically put up really high level stats every single game. Now, like efficiency, we can, you know, that can be hit and miss, like especially with Fox. Like Demonis is so consistent, like how many shots he takes, you know, all that stuff. But with Fox does have games where he hits shots and games where he doesn't hit shots. So you do, even though he's averaging like 25 points a game for a whole month straight, like there are some like 62s and some 38s percentage wise and mixed in there. For this team, it's that you need like three of the other guys to give you basics. You need to give you 15 and you know, solid numbers. And then one other guy has to have something. So we saw a couple of games this year where like maybe two players meant everything. They decided the game or not, but that was usually because somebody was missing. So like the Terrence Davis games where they put up 30 something, or we had the game where Malik and De'Aaron both go for 40 plus, right? Mm-hmm. So we have those games, but for the majority of the games this season, you had Sabonis going for 20, you had Fox going for 25, and then you had either Harrison or Malik or Keegan or Kevin, like either two or three of those guys going for 15 points every game. And I think it's a good way to build your team because of consistency. Even like that's what I like about bringing in Sasha Vezenkov. I think Sasha Vezenkov, no matter what, is going to be able to shoot the lights out and give you production, right? There's not going to be a bunch of games where he's like an 0 for 5 or an 0 for 7. He's very efficient and he's going to help the team get better. And the same, I kind of put him in the same category as like a Trey Lyles. Like those are the games where, you know, you win, they impact winning. And yeah. And even that, I would throw Trey into that group of the other four players that always, you know, he had games where he scored 15 and he was a reason you won like quite a few games where you needed that one extra player and he stepped up and did it. Damian's can't stop from laughing. You got something going on.
I'm laughing at the chatty house.
Oh,
we're coming back, James. Back here with our 1320 Kings insider and creator of the Kings Beat, James Ham. I mentioned this earlier in the show, worth repeating. We've had some fun on social media over the last few days, over the last few weeks, posting some rather cryptic tweets. You'll find out what those cryptic tweets are all about 1 week from tomorrow. Next Thursday, we will tell you what all those tweets are about.
You don't want to miss it, folks.
And we're going to tell you a lot that day.
You don't want to miss it.
And if you think we're unbearable now, if you think we're obnoxious today, wait till Thursday. I'll even give you a time, 12:45.
Ooh.
Set your alarms, 12:45 next Thursday. We're going to tell you what all that tweeting is about. James, tell us. Let's get rid of these logos here real quick. How well you remember this play or this moment from the Kings season?
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Undersized, if you want to call it that.
Look at Mike Brown. Mike Brown. Oh, Mike Brown. Yeah, he is fired up. He's been ejected. And Mike Brown has seen enough. The whistle's not going his way.
My man, watch the official. The official looked like Babe Ruth at the plate. Look at him.
Oh,
Hey,
Brown. Yeah,
Mike,
he is fired up.
Go that way.
He's been ejected.
James, we were reliving this game in Toronto earlier today. Obviously a thrilling victory for Sacramento, but the moment many Kings fans waited 27 games for Mike to finally lose it and get thrown out, and it was worth the wait.
My first thought, which I hadn't seen that clip in a long time, my first thought was, man, the Kings coaching staff has a lot of bald men. Everyone coming to his defense has no hair. Like, everyone. You're like, and then the back of the bench, like, good hair. All of them, good hair. Like, I think we've stumbled upon something here. I love Mike Brown. I love covering him. He is a lot of fun to cover. And I've covered so many coaches. I think we said, like, this is my 9th head coach that I've covered. Like, there's a joy to him that he brings each and every day. And that's something that not everyone is able to do. Like, there is an energy to him and a love for the game. And I think there had been a moment right before that, like a couple of games before, where I thought he should have got a tech, that he needed to go get a tech, that he needed to protect his guys. And like, he needed to be that guy for a minute. And then we got it. And it was like, okay, that's what we need to see. Like, it's fine to be a diplomat most of the time. It's fine to, to push the limits and know where the limits are and make sure the official knows that you're there. Every once in a while, you got to throw down. And especially with this particular team, because this particular team has a bunch of quiet guys. And you can see them. They're all like, what is happening? Why has Mike lost his mind? You see Domas, you see De'Aaron, you see Harrison. They're all like, this is weird. This is new. What is happening? Sometimes you need to mix it up, and you need the players to like, feel something different. Like, there's an episode of Ted Lasso where for a practice they switch all of their personalities. They like, hey, for today you're going to be coach. I'm going to be Coach Beard. You're going to be me. And like, so they're yelling and screaming from different ways, but they're different personalities. And like, I think that Mike has that moment every once in a while where it's like, he needs to be someone different. And I think that was a moment. It was good. It was good for him. And of course it was good because, Jordi Fernandez goes on to win his first game, even though he doesn't get real credit for it. It goes on Mike's win-loss total. It was his first win. And then, of course he goes on to become the Canadian national team head coach while that's happening in Canada. Like, now we know he's the head coach of the Canadian national team.
Just dawned on me how much better Luke Walton's record would be if he had gotten those 41 wins. I think it was in Golden State.
Luke Walton
is your guy.
I got love for Luke.
But you're willing to fire virtually every coach except for Luke Walton.
What other coaches
you've handed out? Well, maybe not just coaches.
It was Farhan Zaidi.
Farhan, you definitely would, and you threatened Kyle. You use strong language with Kyle Shanahan.
Kyle, those Mac Jones rumors. I was like, I've had enough with this. This has got to
go. That's funny.
Can we play one more clip for James?
Absolutely.
This is from the same Toronto game. Hammer. Sorry, let's get these logos out of the way. This is from the same Toronto game, James. This, of course, is the end. You got Fred VanVleet here. driving to the basket. And then Mama Fox, if you're still watching, please avert your eyes because James watched De'Aaron take.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness.
Again, for those who missed it, keep your eyes on 5 here. We get the Fred VanVleet play one more time. Nice little move there from De'Aaron to avoid the foul.
Mm-hmm.
And then here comes Earl Campbell VanVleet.
No.
With a chance to tie. Oh, James. Same game right there. Kings win by 1. That's why Mike got thrown out. Mike preemptively got thrown out because those calls weren't going his way.
Yeah. I think Mike, he has this thing. Sorry, my ice machine is on in here. My bad. He has a thing where like he tries to be diplomatic, and there's more than once this season that I thought he should have gone and got a tech for Fox. And made sure that the officials know you're not going to treat my guy that way. And I'm hoping like that's something that we don't even talk about, like the natural organic improvement of this team. It could become like one of the issues is that De'Aaron Fox gets to the free throw line 2 more times a game, and that Domantas Sabonis gets to the free throw line once or twice more a game. And you start seeing flagrant fouls called against players who hit Domantas Sabonis in the head, because the Kings, as they improve as a franchise and as a team and as a group, they're going to start getting more and more calls because that's the way it goes. And I'm excited to see that. I would like to see a more level playing ground as the Kings get better. And, you know, for all the people to say, well, that didn't happen in 2000, you know, the 2002 NBA finals. Yeah, the Western Conference finals, it didn't happen there, but the Kings had earned a bunch of other respect throughout that. And they were getting more calls throughout the year and throughout that whole era where you weren't as frustrated, except for when you played the Lakers.
Seriously. I agree with you, James. It seemed like before that moment, Mike was trying to teach these guys like, hey, we're, you know, the new kids on the block. Nobody takes it seriously. You're not going to get calls. You got to be able to play through it. You can't let it affect your game. Got to, you know, stay focused on the task at hand. And that time he said to hell with all that. And he was right. Like you said, Jay, probably should have happened 2-3 games prior to that. But he picked that time. It was the right time. It led to a Kings victory. I think after that game, a lot of those guys talked about how they wanted to win that game for Mike going out there and fighting for him. I think Domas specifically was like, you see somebody going out there and fighting for you, you want to have his back the way he had your back. And he pressed the button at the exact right time.
Yeah, and I think, again, that speaks to Mike and who he was this entire season. There were so many moments that I thought he pressed the right button. Like, there were very few coaching decisions where I was like, what in the world is he doing? Like, very few times. And even if we want to talk about, like, did I love Chimezie Metu playing in 66 games this season? Probably not. You know, just because it was like he was a roller coaster ride in itself. But I still like what Mike was doing, the reason behind why he was doing it. I understood that he was more versatile, that he had the ability to defend multiple positions where Rashawn Holmes or Alex Len just didn't have that ability. So I got what he was doing, and you're just hoping he had better players. Like at a certain point, he needs better players. And that's sort of like the theme of the season, though. I thought was like Mike pushed the right buttons with the right guys all the time. And if you go back and you look, it's like, oh, it frustrates you that he played that many games. He played 10 minutes a game. Like Mike didn't let certain players beat his team. He needed them for specific moments, but he also like limited the amount of damage that any one player could do if they weren't playing well. You know, when guys didn't play well, they didn't get to keep playing. When they did play well, they got extra minutes. And I thought a lot of time this season, we saw Mike hitting the right buttons.
And one button that I'm not sure he's gotten this. I'm not sure if he's pressed this button at the right time, or these two haven't gotten in sync, or maybe they have, and my expectations are a little bit different. A guy Kenny and I were talking about earlier this week was Davion Mitchell. We even talked, you know, like it's not far-fetched, and actually I think it's quite likely that De'Aaron's even better than he was last year. Now, what that means per minute, minutes per games and different things like that, like I'm not really sure. But when you have a player that good playing at that level, what does it mean for the player who's literally directly behind him on the depth chart, who's really important to your team, who you have high hopes for? If there's something that I feel like Mike couldn't quite get a grasp of this season, it was exactly what to do with Davion Mitchell, or maybe better stated, how to put Davion Mitchell in the best, most consistent spot for success. I think that's something that I really hope those two can get on kind of track with each other this year.
Yeah, I'm going to say too, like Davion Mitchell was the rotation that they did. Oh,
You're safe, James. 3 seconds. You're safe. Nope, not an official freeze.
All right,
not an official freeze. But the clock. We're watching the clock right now. That was a good one, but that was only 3 seconds, so it doesn't count. Please continue.
Okay, so my point would be with Davion is, first of all, he had plenty of moments where I think he struggled to figure out who he was. Like he didn't quite get what they were doing, and it took a long time for him to figure it out. And you could even, at some point, you could say there are certain things he didn't figure out about how to play within that system. He got better as the season went on, but there are way too many times where he took 8 dribbles or 12 dribbles. And you're like, no one else on this team has taken 8 or 12 dribbles. De'Aaron Fox brought the ball from one side of the court to the other, and he still didn't take 12 dribbles. So I think that there's those moments where you're waiting for Davion to figure it out and to understand what was happening and to make sure that he got, he needed to earn his time again with a new head coach. But I also think that like one of the weird things about this season was the way that they at the 6-minute mark of the first quarter, they pulled De'Aaron Fox every single game, and they put in Davion Mitchell. And then 2.5 minutes later, they would pull Davion, put Fox back in, and then pull Sabonis. And then Fox would finish the quarter. Then they would open the second quarter with Davion Mitchell again. So they kept in the first quarter, they always had Fox or Sabonis on the court. Mm-hmm. In the second quarter, they would go for a couple of minutes with a true 5-man bench rotation, at least some games. Every once in a while there would be either a Harrison Barnes or a Keegan Murray in that rotation as well to keep that one thing going. So there was like maybe a 9-man rotation. But my point is that Davion didn't get 6 minutes straight to play and to get comfortable in any game, very rarely. And so am I surprised that he played like 13, 14 minutes a game on the season? I am. I thought he would play closer to 25. I said that multiple times last year, and I didn't know how they were going to fit all these guys into the rotation anyways with minutes played. And I think we're going to have a similar thing this year. Like it's not even that Davion is doing something wrong. It's that Davion's playing behind an all-league and all-NBA player. And there's not going to be a lot of minutes there. And when you do go to the other guy, it's Malik Monk, because he just brings something so dynamic and so different. And so Davion had to learn how to play without the ball in his hands most of the season. And it took a long time. I asked him multiple times, are you struggling to find your niche with this team? And he would say, yeah, probably. I probably am. And if he was shooting 40% from 3, it's really easy to see what your niche is. It's coming in, playing defense, and knocking out the 3 ball and not worrying about who's dribbling. But he struggled to figure it out because that's not who he's been as a player his whole life. And so I hope that he improves, but at the same time, you're still playing behind De'Aaron Fox. That's why I will never be able to understand drafting a backup point guard with the number 9 pick in the draft. It is what it is. Like, and just for clarity, it didn't matter whether you were going to keep Tyrese Halliburton or you were going to keep De'Aaron Fox. You drafted a backup point guard because there was no clear path to Davion ever being the starting point guard in Sacramento. And that's typically not what you do with the number 9 overall pick. Now, I'm not bashing the front office. They had their own ideas and they made a move and all that stuff. But still, like, if you're drafting number 24, that's fine. You draft number 18, that's fine. You're drafting the top 10, man, you should be looking for an NBA starter. And that's something that I'll continue to point out because, again, he's a good player and I'm not taking anything away from him. He's stuck in Sacramento behind a star level player, and that's not going to happen. He's just not going to get the opportunity.
Real quick, I was just interested. Did anybody ever ask Mike, and did we get an answer as to what happened in Game 7 with Davion not playing as much?
Yeah, I mean, basically they rolled over the Warriors in Game 6 using a different lineup, and he expected the same lineup to work again, and then he didn't make an adjustment late in the game, which he probably should have. I mean, he'll stand by it and say, like, this is what we were doing. And their point of view is like, it's fine. You guys can point out that Steph went crazy, but look at the shooting percentages of all the other players. That was the design. It was like, if Steph is going to go for 50 on most nights, there's nothing you can do about it. Like, we can sit here and argue. I mean, my bigger point, why didn't De'Aaron Fox play him more? Because go back to Game 1 of that series, and De'Aaron Fox's defense on Steph Curry was unbelievable. Game 2, Davion Mitchell was there. But by Game 7, you kind of have played out all of these different like chess matches back and forth between the coaches and the players. And you found something that you thought worked really well in Game 6. And you stuck with it in Game 7, and then players didn't hit their shots.
No, simply what it is.
Was Game 6 lightning in a bottle? Like that
Maybe.
lineup in that moment, like that's, because we talk about Trey Lyles at the small ball 5 a lot, and clearly that's part of a plan. How big of a part? I don't know, but it's clearly, part of the plan at some point. But was that just kind of the circumstances of the moment, desperate, needing something different? You were able to send the Warriors backpedaling a little bit. Was that just something that it worked for that game, but it's not a regular formula of success?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because it's always such a small sample size, right? Like a playoff series, you go back and forth. It is a battle. You're right. The Kings lost 3 in a row, and you get to that point, and you don't know what's going to work. And so maybe you're right. Like, yeah, you're desperate, and again, Terrence Davis played. You remember in Game 6, Terrence Davis played a bunch, and he played defense in that game, and he fouled out. He had 6 fouls in 19 minutes. And they cut back Davion's minutes to like 11, but they also cut back Harrison Barnes' minutes. And that's because, again, Trey Lyles was so good, and Malik Monk was so incredible. And even, Kevin Huerter played limited minutes. He played 30, but, 3 of 8 from 3. He at least hit his threes. You saw a reduction in some of these players' minutes. But, yeah, I guess you could say that. But, again, like, the biggest thing I'll point out is that the Warriors have been there before. Steve Kerr's been there so many times. It's crazy, between being a player and being a coach. Like, he knows exactly what to expect in some of these situations. And you can say Mike Brown did too. And that maybe Mike wasn't quick enough to make an adjustment in Game 7. But again, it all worked in Game 6, like it all worked in Game 1. It all worked in Game 2, right? In Game 4, if you have one shot go down, it's 3-1, series is over.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think Davion, I've said it a number of different times, but I think he's just fine. Obviously, you want to see him get better shot wise, and you want to see those percentages continue to go up. But I don't know if maybe this is what he wants to do for his whole career, but I think he's perfect in this spot behind De'Aaron Fox. There are certain times, and we saw it in Game 2, where I think if that shot continues to improve, he can close games out with this team. I love him as the backup point guard on this team. I think he's in a good spot, and I think the Kings have a hell of an option behind De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, I mean, the guy that I would always point to that he kind of reminds me of is Kyle Lowry. And it took Kyle Lowry a long time to get a starting job too. It did. And he had to, he had to go other places. He had to go, move on and try something somewhere else. And I think that there could come a point where, like, there'll be an understanding that Davion Mitchell, he doesn't hate anybody. It's not that he doesn't like someone or he wants out. he wants a better opportunity. And so like, I would assume that, you get to year 4 and he's, going into a restricted free agency the next summer. That's when you're going to start having more difficult conversations about what it is that he's going to do for your team and how long he's going to stick around and stuff like that. Because I don't think he wants to be a backup for, 10 years. Maybe, but that might be who he is, but for right now, I don't think that that's what he would want.
Yeah.
James, I mentioned the latest Kings Beat newsletter dropped. You could become a premium subscriber or just a subscriber over at thekingsbeat.com. We strongly encourage you to do that. Of course, podcast with Brendan Nunez and Sean Cunningham, also available wherever you get podcasts from. Didn't have an opportunity because you released this article while we were doing the show. Haven't had the opportunity to read it yet. However, I did see a note about Thursday, August 3rd. The virtual happy hour returns.
Yes.
You did not announce a guest in the newsletter, clearly because you were waiting to do it here on the show. Who's joining us for happy hour?
Maybe we'll do it on Friday, or maybe we'll wait until 12:45 on Thursday.
Okay. Wow. Look at this smart ass right here. All right. Well played, James. Well played.
Yes.
If you're not a premium subscriber to the Kings Beat yet, become one. The happy hours are why. Unfortunately, when you become a premium, there's no archive of happy hours. You got to be there. If you're not there, they're gone forever. And there have been some gems in the first year and some change of the Kings Beat. So don't miss out on the next one, Thursday, August 3rd. James is a smart ass. He's going to announce it at Thursday at 12:45 or whenever he decides he's ready to announce.